Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to a new episode of VR Gameplay Analysis. If you're new to the series, this is a video format where I analyze gameplay that you can submit to me so you know exactly where you can improve and how you can improve it. And even if it's not your own gameplay that gets analyzed in this particular episode, you can still learn a lot from it because there's a lot of beginner mistakes a lot of people make, but I will also talk about things you can do in order to push yourself to the higher PvP levels. So you can learn something even if it's not your gameplay getting analyzed in this particular episode. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So in today's episode I will analyze Snares and Pablo's gameplay. Sorry if I pronounced their names wrong. And in today's episode I will quickly talk about stamina management and buff up times again. But if you want to have a more in-depth guide on it, check out the last episode of VR Gameplay Analysis. But the main focus of this episode is within countering snares as well as block timing. So let's get right into it. Reiner's gameplay looks quite good. It's a montage, so it's kinda hard to analyze, but he has still good offensive rotations, as well as he's keeping up the buffs most of the times. One thing that I want to mention is that your defensive buff up times don't really matter if you steamroll the enemy team, but the more BGs you play, the higher your MMR gets, the harder are the matches, and you will face a lot more good players, and they will punish you if you don't have your buffs up. So buff up times will become more and more important the higher your MMR gets. The second thing I want to quickly talk about is stamina management, and a lot of the times in this gameplay you can see that his stamina is around 20 to 30% at all times, and that's dangerously low because if you get pressured once, you don't have the tools to react accordingly. So for example, if you get ult dumped, you break free once, so you have like 10% stam, and then you can't really kite efficiently, you can't block to mitigate damage to not to die. So that's why I recommend you to sustain your stamina at around 40 to 50% or even higher, so you're able to react accordingly. So the best way to keep up your stamina is to heavy tech with in between abilities, and that's what a lot of people miss, and they lose so much sustain because they don't do that. Another thing about stamina management is, if you don't have any stam left, there's no point engaging a fight and even running into the fight, because without stamina you can't do anything. So if you want to engage, don't run. Heavy tech, charge a heavy tech, so you may land a heavy tech to engage the fight and you get some stamina back, but don't run to an enemy without any stam left. What I also see a lot of people doing is when they respawn, they run into the middle and they start the fight with like 30% stam, and that's not worth doing. It's better to take your time, lose 3 to 4 seconds, but at least you will have more than 50% stam. If you know that stamina management is your problem, check out the last episode of your gameplay analysis. I will go more in depth about sustaining your stamina and the different ways of sustaining your stamina there. So check this video out, I will link the video in the description below. So let's talk about the main topic of this episode, and that's block timing. So in other words, when you should block and how you should block. Everyone probably knows that you can't just press right click to hold block and perma block, but that's inefficient. You want to time your block whenever you get under huge pressure, because blocking is really cost intensive. So that's why you just want to block whenever you fall below like 40% health, or you know that huge burst is incoming, so you pre-block. To show it in this gameplay, he goes for an offensive burst, gets one kill, and decided to execute the second one even though he's under a lot of pressure. So he gets dangerously low and he reacts well. He starts blocking on 2H bar, mitigates a lot of damage and heals himself up. But the thing is that he tried to go offensive again, but his health was still too low. So you want to block as long as your health is dangerously low, for example like 30%. So you rely on block to mitigate damage and let the heal over times heal you up again and get you out of execute range. Especially against Zorks, you try to avoid getting below 20% health because you will die from an execute and an implosion proc, most likely. So in the first clip we see someone that has to rely on block more, and in the second clip we will see someone that blocks too much, and that's also not really efficient. So we see, for example, here that he's under some pressure, but the pressure is still not enough to force another player into a block position. So it would be more efficient to just heal through with vigor and without blocking, and heavy tech to sustain, because in that case blocking was not really needed, and his sustain got hit really hard because of the block cost, as well as the no regen while blocking. It's kinda hard to explain when you should block, but I would generally only block if you're under a huge amount of pressure. To further demonstrate, I will show you a BG game I did, and you can see that my teammate dies and then they turn on me, and I have a huge amount of pressure on me. So my first priority is to line of sight, and that's why I cast forward momentum, so I have a snare removal. And if you're forced to play defensively, you should not only rely on blocking as your only defensive mechanism, but you should also keep in mind that you can line of sight the enemy, and that's why I tried to line of sight. And while line of sighting, I block tap, and I try to block whenever I think that the damage is incoming, so I survive while line of sighting. But for example, if my health didn't drop below 50% health, I wouldn't even block, and I would just kite around the house and line of sight. And in this next scenario, I get huge amount of pressure, I drop below 30%, I try to kite to the side, and I block, but only for a short time, because I don't need to block again when my health goes up, so I just block until my health goes up again. So that's what you should always do in a 2H and Solon board setup. You don't perma-block, but you rely on block whenever you get low, but instantly stop blocking when your health goes up again, so you don't lose too much sustain. So that was about how you should block. And the next thing I want to talk about is how to play against snares. And in Pablo's gameplay we can see that he faces some snare builds, for example with ice blockades, so he gets snared a lot, but he has tools to counter the snares. In his case he has 4 momentum, but there's also shuffle and mistform and dodge roll to get out of snares. And when you get snared, you should try to break the snare as soon as possible, because if you're perma snared, you can line of sight, the enemies can hit you all the time, you stand most likely in all the dots possible, so you take more damage than usual, and all that damage could be avoided by breaking the snares with a snare removal and line of sight again. So in this gameplay we can see that he gets snared, and instead of breaking the snare he relies on blocking. It's okay to... the decision to block wasn't that bad, since he gets low and you should block whenever you get low, so you have a chance to mitigate some damage and heal back up. But once you get more health back, you should break the snare instead of keep blocking, especially if you know that your sustain is not good at the moment, so you should more rely on line of sighting instead of raw blocking. So there's another situation, but there are also other situations where the same thing happens again. He should prioritize the snare removal over just blocking and standing there, because you can avoid more damage by line of sighting and get out of the fight instead of staying in the fight and keep blocking. I like to mention again that, especially for Pablo's case, you need to heavy tech more in between abilities so you can sustain your stamina. And if you don't heavy tech that often, you need to invest more in stamina recovery so you don't have the situations where you can't break free, because when you can't break free, you're vulnerable a lot, and that can cause you a lot of deaths that you could have avoided. Before I end this video, I want to give you guys a quick fun fact. When you queue for BGs, you can push ult in the meantime, so you have your ult ready in the beginning of the match, and you can do an ulti burst in the beginning so you get ahead of the other teams. But that was it for this episode of your gameplay analysis. If you want your own gameplay to be analyzed, check out the description below to know how you can submit a gameplay to me. You can join my Discord, there you can ask me anything. I even have a chat channel that's like a budget website where you can check out some really good builds for all the classes. So check out the Discord link in the description below. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.